Welcome to the Only KADs Podcast, the chaotic corner of the internet where four KADs, Korean adoptees, April, Claire, Jenna, and Nate meet to discuss, rant, and laugh, leaving nothing off the table, while always keeping it real. Coming to you from up and down the eastern seaboard and around Asia, let's be honest. We met through the adoptee thing, but we stay for the hijinks, the friendships, and the late night group chat energy that we just can't keep to ourselves. No matter where you're listening from, you're a part of the group. Each month, we'll be hanging out on our screens and in your ears. While no feed footage will be involved, expect equal parts unfiltered truth and unhinged banter with zero judgment and absolutely no paywall. We're live!
What's up, guys? Ladies?
Hello.
What is up?
Welcome to the Only KADs Podcast, the inaugural edition.
All right. So what are we gonna do today?
I think we're just
I
going
think
to
we should tell everyone who we are.
Yeah. And get to know each other a little bit, tell our backstories.
I think April should because she has the best voice.
Oh, no pressure.
I
Okay.
agree.
Well, I think I was the last in the group too, so we can kind of go in reverse of how we all met each other, right? So I was introduced by Nate. Was it last September-ish, somewhere around this time, about a year ago?
Yeah, somewhere around
And
there.
we found each other on TikTok and started to do a couple lives on there, and then from there just started talking. He invited me to the Zooms, which Claire started. And before I knew it, I was going to con this past June, and that's where I met Jenna for the first time. So it's all kind of come full circle just with social media, which I'm very grateful for.
I did not know that's how the two of you originally met.
Very wild, yeah. Like if it
Yeah.
hadn't been for me on TikTok, I never would have met this guy.
I love it. Nate, why don't you go next then?
Yeah, so I guess just to kind of connect all the dots here. Yeah, I was just like scrolling through and this video of this Korean, woman comes on and says, "Hello, darling." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm locked in. Let's go." And so it's just April, doing a stitch with somebody who's like, "Where are all the Asians with Southern accents?" And so that was the video. That was the video that popped up somehow on my For You page, and yeah, so started connecting with her, and I was just like, "Hey, you can come to this Wednesday thing that we have going on, and we've got Facebook groups and stuff like that." And so yeah, that's actually how I met April. And then, yeah, the kind of how I got started in all of this is that I was just like, there's got to be Facebook groups for this, right? There's Facebook groups for everything, riding bikes, going on hikes, board games, Dungeons and Dragons, whatever. So there's got to be like an adoptee Facebook group. So, yeah, I hopped on Facebook and just started looking through and dropped into one of them. The one I eventually got kicked out of. We can talk about that in maybe a later episode. But
Just
uh,
one.
just
It's just
yeah,
been
so
one.
far that's just the one. It's
Oh,
only
okay.
been one. Yeah, just the one. Um, but I saw a post from Claire saying, "Hey, we do these weekly Zooms on Wednesdays, type of thing." And I'm like, sure, I'll see what it's about, and hopped on, and it was probably what, like maybe 6 months after you had started, Claire, as far as the Zooms.
Yeah,
And
probably.
yeah, after I joined. So it was still pretty early on. Like there were weeks where we would get like, maybe 10, maybe 12 people, which is crazy to think about now. But and then I think Jenna, that's you started hopping on the Zooms as well. And so started giving us like live updates from, Jeju and what was happening there and stuff like that. And so yeah, that's how I've kind of connected with the three of y'all. And then, of course, we all got together at Con this past summer and got to hang out and drink soju and spend a great amount of time with each other. So it's good stuff. Jenna, do you want to
So
go?
good.
Well, I do want to give a little bit of housekeeping for anybody listening to this and not understanding the ABC soup. So KAN is the Korean Adoptee Adoptive Family Network, which is one of the oldest running Korean adoptee organizations, I think, that exists, period. They do an annual conference, which this year was in Buckhead, Georgia, near Atlanta, where a lot of us got together and met in person, in real life, IRL, as the kids say. So that happens when we say KAN, that's what it means. And when we all mention the Zoom, it is wonderful weekly opportunity for Claire, like 2 or 3 years now that Claire started on Sundays, East Coast time,
Yeah.
well, United States time. And then because Claire jet sets around and lives a very glamorous life, I think that's when Nate and Kirsten, our friend Kirsten, took over and did a Wednesday night. There's two opportunities, long story long, for Korean adoptees only to hop on a weekly opportunity to meet with other Korean adoptees, sit and listen, look at the chat box, watch the madness, share whatever's going on. It doesn't have to be Korean adoptee related, but it is only for Korean adoptees. So when we say Zoom, that is what we are talking about. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Little housekeeping.
You're so
No,
good at
that
that,
was
Jenna.
really good. Yes.
Well, do you want
Listen,
to
I'm a
talk
former
about your
apologist.
own?
I can. Oh, sure. So that's how I met Claire, I think, first. We met in real life a long time ago. In the spring or the fall, I moved to Korea and Jeju-do in 2023. And very soon, people started to talk about there's a Korean adoptee in Jeju-do on Jeju Island. And so Kirsten, who is just a complete gem of a person in our friend group, she messaged Claire and she messaged me and said, Claire's going to be in Korea. I think she's coming to Jeju. The two of you should. And I think a couple people reached out to Claire and I separately to say, you should get together. There's like a lot of matchmaking that happens. Great. I mean, I will get together with any Korean adoptee anywhere, anytime. If anybody is trying to abduct me, that's what you do. Jenna, there's a Korean adoptee that's going to be in the Star trailer.
Right.
I'll say, okay, well, will there be soju, dry red wine, or coffee?
I
I'm
thought
there.
about abducting you, Jenna. Next
You know,
time.
it's a common next time. You know, we're just constantly meeting strangers off the internet. That's what Korean adoptees do.
Yeah.
So then Claire and I spent a magical day together in Jeju Island, and it was great. And so we've since interviewed one another for different initiatives that we try to do. And then I hopped on the Zoom call on the Wednesday nights, East Coast time. It's Thursday mornings in Korea. And then got to know the beautiful faces that are on the bottom of my screen of April and Nate. So love these connections. It's my favorite.
Oh my gosh. I think it's just kismet. Like I'm just trying to think. I think I met April 1st, maybe. I don't know. So maybe I met Nate first. I'm trying to think. Well, first of all, let me just say I have menopause brain, so nothing I say can be really taken literally. Because I also have goldfish brain. I forget everything. But I'm just going to tell my story, how I think, how I'm imagining it in my head. So,
That
like
works.
Nate said, I was going through, I was going through my, not coming out of the fog, but I was really, this was during the pandemic, I was really needing connection. And, I was like, deep in my coping mechanisms and all my addiction. I had a box of wine every day, I think. And I was just like, geez, I need something in my life to get me through. And then I started to look into DNA, doing DNA tests. And then I found the Facebook groups. And it was just like my whole world opened up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never been part of this huge group of Korean adoptees. And let me just say, we are so beautiful. And all of us, like, I was just in awe. Everyone that I met, yes, every one of us. And so, but there is also a lot of trauma I saw. And I saw it, that saying, hurt people hurt people. I saw a lot of us lashing out, and there was a lot of confusion and a lot of emotions and all of that. So I was like, oh no, I think I need to back out and get out of these Facebook groups, because I was like so triggered every
Abort
day.
mission.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, for my own mental health and sanity, I can't be on here 24/7 and just, doing this. So I said, let me open up, this was a couple of years later, let me open up a call just to see if anyone wants to get on Zoom and just hang and just get to know each other. I'm very like one-on-one, like I'm very introverted. So I was like, I just want to get people on Zoom and get out of these big groups. And I think there's like 3 other CADs that answered the call. One was Kirsten, who we've talked about, who connected me and Jenna. And then Lori, who is my co-host for the Empowered Adoptee podcast. And she was another person on that very first call. And you know who the third one was? It was Brett. So we call each other, we're the OGs of the Zoom calls. And it was like, oh my God, my heart. So ever since then, my heart has been with all of you, all of the CADs who come onto the Zooms. And then thank you so much. Nate took over when I moved away to Asia. I was traveling to Korea and Thailand and Vietnam. And so I just couldn't make the time anymore, because that was my work time. I had to go to sleep. So Nate took over and Kirsten took over. And then April, I think I met you soon after. And then I think that Lori actually met you first through maybe social media. I don't know how you met Lori.
Yeah, well, I was spending some time in San Francisco near the Bay Area, Lafayette to be specific. And she and I just kind of happened to have time to meet while I was there. And I obviously had met you through Nate, and just found the opportunity to meet her in person. And soon after, you guys actually interviewed me on your podcast, which was the first time I'd ever been on a podcast. And it was pretty great. It was just kind of a dive-in experience for me into the community. And I don't know that I would have handled it any better. I think I had a similar experience to you with like, oh, this is weird with the groups, or this isn't quite what I thought it would be. And then I kind of left. But then once I met Nate, and I kind of found my people within my people, I think. And it moved very quickly and very easily. So it's been so much better this time around for sure.
Yeah,
You do have
amazing.
within your people. I almost want to put together a development identity model within itself, because there is look at all 200,000 of us. Oh no, I don't get along with everyone. Is that okay? And then the backing out, and then a coming back in, and everybody sort of seems to do that. And when you meet people, you almost want to ask, like, what part of this journey are you on? Are you cynical yet? Are you? Do you want to run away from us yet, or do you still love us all? What part of the journey are you in?
Yeah.
That's a huge part of it. Yeah, for sure.
It is.
Because like,
It is.
I think it's like the stages of grief, right? And it's difficult for you to understand where these people are coming from if they have seen stage 5 and you're on stage 2. Because it's not linear. You're going to come back.
Yeah.
Like, I hop back to 3 occasionally every other day, right? But I've at least seen 9. I've at least seen stage 9. So yeah, I think that's where it comes from. And just kind of understanding that we're all still human. And while we do have things in our lives because of our adoption stories that bring us together and make us more relatable to one another, we're still just individuals who have different personalities and different ways of coping with things and different interests that we just don't get with one another,
And as our mutual friend Michael would say, we're all egocentric we are the center of our own universe, the way we should be, in many sense. And so when you are on one side of the spectrum of this is how I'm viewing my life, because this has been my experience, and somebody else is saying something opposite, and we're all a little insecure and we all want to defend our position, but we're all like, but wait a minute, we've all been through enough. Why can't we all just get along? It starts to become, it can be like a centrifuge of crazy emotions, especially online, which we know everyone's
Yep.
so great at articulating themselves with their emotions in writing. So that always gets really interesting. Nate, I'm sorry, I inadvertently cut you off. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Um, Talking about egocentric, one of the reasons why we're kind of all together is that we all have podcasts. So I wanted to take a moment and give each of us an opportunity to kind of like talk about our podcast, why we started our podcast, and then just, talk like name your podcast, what it's about, and what, kind of is the point of it. Like why are we doing what we're doing? So, Jenna, go ahead. You can kick us off with your podcast.
Well, like most things in my life, I'm an accidental podcaster. Everything I've done has been a little bit accidental, but it all works out. I'm more of a writer. And so when I got to Korea, my writing is really for me. And if somebody happens to read it, every time somebody says, I read what you wrote, I'm like, oh, really? And I also know that I would, if I was my friend, I would be not my main audience because I have a really hard time sitting down sometimes and just reading. But you know what I will do is I will listen all day long. And so I started to record my essays for my lazy friends who just want to listen to what I have to say instead of reading it, while they're doing the dishes, which is fine. And what's really aggravating actually is that Substack, where you can find my writing, shameless plug, actually has a really great AI voice you can choose from that will actually read it for you. So I'm really duplicating work by reading my own stuff and putting it out on Spotify. But if you'd rather listen to an AI voice, you can do that as well. So I'm exploring with Jenna Lee Kim on Spotify, and my essays are jennaleekim.substack.com. And it's just about, sometimes it's just about a topic like dealing with hair as a Korean in America, but also coming to Korea and there's a lot of hair culture associated with Korea. Sometimes it's a little topic like that you've just never really thought about before that strikes me as something that maybe is different for folks to look at from a different lens. Other times it's living in Korea during crazy times, like when the president declared martial law for like 11 hours. I was living here during that, so thinking about that, and also reuniting with my birth family and just unpacking things that are uh, that come into my brain and I want to get out there for my own healing. And so if it happens to help other people read and have interest in an American living in Korea as an adoptee, reunited with their family, also a mother of 2 young kids, if you're interested in that niche, then come hop on over to what I have to say.
Love it. Love that, Jenna.
Yeah, I'm definitely the audience of like, because I have a long commute. I have like an hour long commute each day, an hour both ways, and so like I don't have the luxury of like reading. So being able to listen to you, I'm that audience because I'm like, let me just put it on in the car. Um, I'll fully admit I put every podcast on 1.2 speed, so it's a little bit faster. But that's perfect for me. So yeah, outside of
Get it?
that,
We can
not
go
sure.
on.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's see here. Claire, why don't you talk about yours?
All right, what should I say? Well, it's called the Empowered Adoptee Podcast, and I co-host it with Lori Vogler. Lori Jean, you might know her as Lori Jean. She's my favorite. Well, so it's like weekly therapy for us. Yeah, that's what it is. So we had this idea. It was basically like we launched our podcast maybe so it was right after the Zoom calls. When I started the Zoom calls, and we started to realize that, we had all of these really deep issues that we were healing from, adoptee trauma, relationships, just needing to have a space for that and to dive a little bit deeper and to not only share our stories, but also amplify other Korean adoptee stories through the podcast. So we started it, I think we launched it in February after the Zoom about 2 years ago. And so we just come on there. We interview other adoptees. Sometimes we've interviewed each of you, and it's been just, oh my gosh. I mean, it has been amazing just getting to know each of you, but also like having these real talks about what it is that we are doing. Like you talked about, April, like the stages of, the stages of grief, the stages of coming out of the fog, like all of these things, like we can really go. And because when we compare our stories, not to compare them like saying, oh, you're so different or similar, it's just we learn about ourselves on a much deeper level by hearing the other stories. And it's so validating. And oftentimes, Lori or I or both of us will end up crying. And it's like, it touches us so deeply. It's okay, I'm going to admit, I'm a little bit like more stoic. Lori's the one that usually cries every single episode. But we'll do things like we'll talk about attachment theory and relationships. We'll talk about experiences like going to Korea for the first time or the second or the third or fourth time, and what that's like. And all of it is so hard. It was hard for me. So having a space to be able to unpack everything, tell my story, but also talk about the different challenges and just like everything that I went through was really able. I mean, I was able to really feel like I was so seen and heard, where most of my life growing up with my white family, like I never felt seen, I never felt heard, I was never validated. But just by sharing my story, somehow it made all of that happen. And so I think I'm healing through the podcast, and hopefully other people listening are getting a little bit of healing elements as well. We do things like we share some of our healing modalities that we both work in the community with. Like Lori shares her EFT tapping, and I share somatic breath work. And then also we'll share updates with our Empowered Adoptee retreats, which we hold twice a year. So we go in and talk about those and how the amazing healing is done in community. I call it collective healing in community because it's like so important. I think that we can heal individually, but we can heal on a much deeper level in community. And when you're having someone hold space with you, I feel like that is so much richer and is so much more powerful. So that's kind of what we do, what we talk about. And I don't know, but I just also want to say, like, podcasting is hard. Can we just talk about that?
Yeah. The
Okay.
editing.
The editing.
The editing alone. I have 3 episodes I haven't looked at because editing.
This is why I interview people on my podcast. I just read my own essay and I'm done with it. Y'all do really hard work.
Also, last week I learned about recording and remembering to hit the button because Jenna came on mine and I did not hit record.
It's 2 hours no one will ever hear. We'll do it again.
It's fine. We'll do it again.
You're not the
It's
only
gonna be
one.
amazing.
Done it before. Rookie mistake.
April, why don't you tell us about your podcast and what that what it's all about?
So I will say I have not been as nourishing into my podcast as I probably could. I entered into the community and just started creating, and my ADHD has taken over. So now we've got a website that's deepsouthkorean.com, shameless plug, with merchandise. And I also try to showcase other Korean adoptees with businesses on there in a directory. Basically just a space to create community for people who don't want to go on Facebook. And because there are people who don't have
Valid.
Facebook or don't want to use a Facebook group. I've had plenty of people who are like, oh, I've never heard about the Zooms because I don't have Facebook. So as convenient as it can be, it can also be a block. So that was my hope with the website. But then I also was like, I have a story to tell. And I think a lot of adoptees feel this whenever they are working through this, that they just feel like they need to tell somebody. And tell it in a way that they don't have to explain themselves, but to just express themselves. And so I started doing that for my own work. I guess that would fall under shadow work, depending on what belief you have. And then I realized that it was also a space that other KADs needed, and I felt finally comfortable to host other people and interview. So I do have some of those recorded, and I hope to have those to launch like soon. And it's essentially just about your journey. Soul searching is the title of it, but soul is spelled like Seoul, Korea. And the intention is to just figure out how you became who you are and just reflect on the things you've been through, the bricks that built you, so to speak, because I think that's really what trauma ends up being at the end of the day if you let it. It's just a part of who you are and what makes you a person. So yeah, with other people, we're talking about that in their journey. They are, a lot of them, either adoptees or immigrants, firstborn generation immigrant children. So they are all Asians of the diaspora thus far, but I have entertained the idea of including adoptee allies, we'll say. So family members, spouses, siblings of that nature who, friends who kind of witness, because that's all you really can do as an adoptee comes out of the fog and learns about who they really are because of all of that. But yeah, that's pretty much just real light stuff.
That's what life is. Bunch of
Right.
light events strung
Just
together.
exactly. And then,
Yeah.
and Nate, you cover a lot of transracial adoptees on your podcast, though.
Yeah. So my podcast is Color Shift Transracial Adoptees. And one of the things that, like, as I was kind of wading into this adoptee space, I realized that there were, actually through things like TikTok and other social media platforms, that there's so many other transracial adoptees and not just Korean adoptees. You see a black child with a white family, like that's a transracial adoptee. You see, situations where you're just kind of like, why are those people together type of thing. And so it was one of those where I was like, there's a much bigger world out there. And so I wanted to kind of expand the world of transracial adoptees. And so, yeah, I've been extremely fortunate of like the wide range of people that I've interviewed, from domestic adoptees here in the United States to international adoptees from, Brazil to Australia or China to the UK and things like that. And so it's been an absolute pleasure. I feel like I learned something new from each guest and get to hear it maybe in a different way, or just pick up something, just a little bit different from each person. And the way I describe it to people is that, for me, it's three people going to sit down for a cup of coffee, and one person gets to share their story about being an adoptee and what it was like for them. And me being the other person, I ask the questions, and the audience is the third person that gets to sit and listen to this story unfold. And so that's how I describe it to people. And so far, like, it's been great. Really has. Haven't had too many like major issues. We all have had our hiccups here and there in the podcasting world, but those kind of come with the territory. But it's been absolutely amazing so far.
I think that's great. And one of the things that I know for me personally is, even if I'm just meeting a sales associate in the store, I end up walking away going, oh, I never thought about it that way. Like, I learned so many things just talking to someone else. And so I like the idea of a third person sitting in on your conversation, Nate, like you're feeling part of it. Like you get to be a fly on the wall and get the benefit of watching you learn from that person, or anybody who's interviewing anyone for anything. I got
Yeah.
a little obsessed when I first came into consciousness. I was a stay-at-home mom, so I would just sort of ignore my children and listen to podcasts all day. And when I say I've listened to, not even kidding, 300 plus adoptee stories on all of the amazing people who have podcasts, that's how I learned a lot about what all of this is. And so just
Oh,
feel
wow.
really grateful for the people who want to take the time to do that. So the three of
Mm.
you want to take the time, and everybody else who wants to be vulnerable and share their story in that way. So that's pretty cool that you guys do that.
Yeah,
Especially the
and
people who share.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really the big thing too, is that like I know I've been on Claire's podcast, we've each been on that podcast, The Empowered Adoptee, and I'm grateful for my guests because I know what it takes to just have like that moment of vulnerability to be like, all right, here's my story, and just I it's interesting. I can always feel as I'm doing the interview, people just that there's a weird moment where they just suddenly relax, and like now you can tell like, okay, now they're really just kind of telling me their story, and now I can just freely like ask questions, and they're in an okay space to just answer whatever. And so yeah, it's pretty amazing. But the next thing I guess we should talk about, like, what do we hope that this podcast is going to be? Like, what's gonna what are we hoping to get out of this? What are we hoping our audience gets out of this?
Well, I would tune in just to listen to April speak. So that's why I would each week.
100%.
Hey,
But you
Jenna.
all. April's going to make a ringtone that just, good morning, Jenna. Good morning, Jenna. Good morning,
Good morning,
Jenna,
Jenna.
for me.
Wake up, Jenna. Answer your phone, Jenna. Just all the things. Hey, girl, you got text.
That's weird.
I'm trying to figure out, I know how to make it like a sound in like music, but I just got to figure out what kind of phone do you have? iPhone or Android?
No, because I'm not a trader. I have a Korean-made phone. Thank you.
That's right. You did say this earlier.
All of you with iPhones, except all the Koreans have iPhones. But
No,
not
I got
me. I'm
Samsung.
staying
I
loyal.
rock a
Thank
Samsung.
you,
Yeah.
Nate.
Yep.
I have an
Yeah, I
iPhone.
love a
Samsung all the way.
Samsung.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for the fact that I lived in places with terrible internet and had to airdrop things from my phone to my laptop, I would too be a Samsung girl.
Don't make excuses, April. Don't make, it's
I'm
whatever.
trying. I'm trying. This is what I tell myself every time I look at a Samsung, and I'm like, I miss you.
April, I need you to be like the voice of my GPS. I don't have a car right now
Yes.
because I live in Asia. I don't need a car. But when I did have my car and I had my GPS, I just needed some April. You're very spicy, and I feel like you could just like you would deliver the directions so I could get there, and I would just feel so good about myself. It was like I just need that little affirmation that I can do it, and that little confidence that comes from April. I love me some April.
Oh,
Well,
thank you,
I actually,
Claire.
I would like Claire to be my GPS because I would feel very relaxed.
Oh, yeah,
Turn
you're very
left here.
calm.
When you have a moment, please take
Mm-hmm.
some time about turning left. But then when I make a mistake, I need April to come on and be like, "You missed your turn." And then I would giggle and I wouldn't feel so bad about being directionally challenged. Then when I reached my destination, Nate could come on and say, "Good job, Jenna. You made it."
Yes.
I
You
would
have
like a
reached your
combination.
destination.
I want to cut
See,
this and send it to what is it, Waze, and be like, this is the team of people who you need to voice over your next
yeah,
GPS
Waze. Get
collection.
on that, Waze. Come on. Not a
Custom.
sponsor yet. Not a sponsor
Not a
yet,
sponsor
but
yet.
it's coming.
Yet.
I like the
That's
way
really
you
what
think.
this is all about. Eventually, we'll make a lot of money doing this podcast, guys.
We hope.
But
I just want enough money so we can have a compound and see each other.
Yes, let's talk
Nate,
about the compound.
well, Nate had a serious question. Nate had a
He
serious
did.
question, which I took us way off track. Which is, what do we want? Way off track. What do we want this podcast to be? Claire, what do you think this podcast should be?
Okay. Ooh, gonna call me out, Jenna. I was thinking, all right, so like how we got to be here and Like I had to wake up at 7 a.m. here and everyone made it happen. Like we all have busy lives and we were like, we need to come together and record this podcast. And I was thinking, why? Like why have another podcast? But part of the, we have these spaces like the Zoom calls, we have conference, we have retreats, we have our individual meetups that we do in person, which are so enriching and so rewarding. But one of my favorite things about us that I feel like we are a chosen family. We choose to stay connected. And we do that through like group texts and chats. And it's the little stuff in between where we are coping and like surviving or thriving through life. But it's like we all have each other's backs. It's like the little conversations here and there that I truly need in my life. And so I think that this brings some of that element to, just having the little banter, the side conversations and, the jokes and everything. I think that's for me is something that I really, really would love if I were a listener and listen to for Korean adoptees. Like the stories and the trauma and the heavy stuff is good to listen to, but also the light stuff and how we cope every day.
I agree.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about what we have so much rich material of trailblazers before us and folks who are doing it currently, including the three of you. So how can this be different? Like, why would I tune in each week? And I think that there is something really special about people who find each other, finding the people within the people. And I also think that I'm always cognizant when somebody reaches out to me and says, that's what I've been feeling, that's what I've been thinking. But I'm not someone who wants to put myself out there in that way to tell people that. But thank you for doing it, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's TikTok or any of the social media platforms. And I think it's valid. Like maybe Facebook is not your space. Maybe you don't want to listen. I think that for me personally, when I hit a brick wall after coming into consciousness and understanding that my life was not what I thought it was, and I was not the person that I thought I was, it was like oxygen that I needed to find people who understood even an ounce of what I was going through, or could even ask a question that was relevant that I didn't know I needed them to ask, but that knowing they were out there. And I think because of folks like you, it is now almost impossible for anyone coming into consciousness in the adoptee community to realize their life is not what they thought it was. It's going to be impossible for them to not find somebody now, especially after a lot of the developments that have happened within Korea and the transition of records and all of the things that we can talk about later. But I think for me, that's what something like this podcast is for. I don't want to go on a podcast myself, and maybe I don't have a big community of Korean adoptee friends. I don't want to go to a meetup in San Francisco. I'm a little too introverted for that. But hey, I've got 4 friends that I can tune into and listen to, who a couple of them have great accents, and we can just hang once a month so that I feel less alone. So for me, that's what everything I do in this space, no matter what I am doing, that is what that's for. So that there is that one person out there who doesn't, in their white community, who doesn't feel alone.
I think for me, I'm gonna toot my own horn a little bit. I was the one that sent out the initial message to the three of you. And I was like, hey, we should do like our own like kind of collective podcast. We're all in this space together. We might as well try and do something together and put it out on all of our platforms. And for me, I thought all of our topics like are pretty heavy. They're we're dealing with trauma, we're dealing with people's lives and stories and things like that. And I'm just like, why don't we just do something fun, a little bit silly? We can talk about the latest whatever, if it's the I'm sure at some point we'll talk about K-pop Demon Hunters because that's all any CAD can talk about right now. But or Labubus or something like that. Maybe we can bring on a special um expert Labubu person
Bring
on.
in experts.
We
Yeah,
can.
we know enough people that we can have, guests on to talk about certain topics. But yeah, just I just thought like it'd be amazing just to, because we're all in this space. We might as well like just talk about like stuff that we're already talking about in our group chats and text messages and sometimes on Wednesdays. And so it's like, hey, let's share it out to everybody else. Like Jenna said, like maybe you're like, I don't feel like sitting through, a Wednesday group, or I don't have time or whatever, but I still want to feel connected to the community. And so, yeah, why not? Let's all get together, maybe invite a couple friends on here and there and, call it a day. So, what are your thoughts, April?
Yeah, I mean, I echo pretty much everything that you guys have said. There's so many spaces where it is very heavy for adoptees, and honestly, it's because it's needed. I think a lot of us at this point in our time, or at this point in our lives, just feel the need to trauma dump, if I'm being honest. But we also need a dance, right? Like, just as in the US, there's all of these crazy things going on, and there's so much work to be done, and a lot of people are protesting or fighting, or we won't get into that necessarily, but to say that in these types of times, you also have to remember what you're fighting for. So, as a Korean adoptee, when you're doing all of this work, it's very easy to get in the middle of the muck and be like, I don't want to do this. I'm too tired. I don't have the support system that I needed to begin with. I have no ducking clue what I'm doing. And I was just fine where I was, and that's where I'll just stay. And it's very easy to do that if you don't know where you're going or have voices like these to come back to say, hey, it's okay. That was a misstep, but maybe it wasn't. Tomorrow it might be a learning opportunity. Um, and I like to think that we are all at least to a point in our journeys that we can kind of serve as a light at the end of the tunnel for some people. And I don't think any of us will kind of bullshit it either. We're not going to sugarcoat it and be like, oh, it's just so great over here and everything's all better. It's easier because we found the right tools to do the work. We're not using wooden pencils anymore. We've got mechanical ones that the lead never
Speak
breaks,
for
and that
yourself.
makes a on some days. Compared to where I was a few years ago, she is absolutely upgraded to a nice mechanical pencil for sure. Um, and I can
Some of us are
absolutely.
using crayons depending on the day. Let's be honest.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are, like I said, it's not linear. You can hop back for sure, and I think that's part of it too. Is that like, it's easy. Where I'm on social media, I recognize it's very easy for me to just post the pretty parts and just share the highlights and the accomplishments and the milestones. But what about the days when I'm avoiding my own things? Like, I haven't really addressed the fact that I found my biological family, and then the file transfer cut off communication, and now I got to start all over again. So, have we done anything to work towards that? No. But am I working to help other people work towards that? Yes, because that is avoidance at its finest.
Awareness is half the battle. It starts with awareness.
And speaking of coloring or using pencils, I don't have pencils or anything like that, but like I'm just thinking about when I color, like I can't stay within the lines. I'm coloring outside the lines. I get messy AF. And that's just me. And I've come to a point where I can give myself permission to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's great about each of every one of us here, sitting here in this space, is that we have accepted that, and we are, able to look at life. And like you said, April, it's like not only the highlight reels, but showing and being able to show vulnerably what we're actually going through. And so I think that has a lot of power.
Yeah.
Well, and we have a lot of similarities in somewhat similar age gap, but also we've all come through a pretty major relationship or two. Some of us have kids, some of us don't. but we're all navigating some similarities in very different ways. And I think April hit on a really important point, which is there will be hard times still coming, unfortunately. I mean, I had a really good friend lean across the table last year and say, you know, Jenna, you probably will make another mistake again in your lifetime. And I was like, what? Obviously not going to happen because I color in the lines all the time, Claire, on purpose so that nothing can ever go wrong. And then everything goes wrong. And I'm like, but I colored in the lines. Or if I can use it, but I colored in the lines, as April would say. So, I told you it was going to happen. I can't help it.
Oh my God, it was so good.
The accent just comes out. Anyway, so I think there's also a lot of similarities in what we have to share, but different perspectives. And I think that's great. And I can't wait until there's a men are from Mars, women are from Venus situation that Nate can be like, but we're not from Mars. But you might think
I'm gonna have to call in some backup for that.
I was going to say, we're going to have to level the field for him. It might be 3 against 1, it might be 2 unfair.
3-on-1 is definitely not going to be fair for that discussion.
Especially
we'll
not
talk
these
about
3.
it. We'll talk about it. I will point out if anyone's keeping score, Nate did say that he reached out to the 3 of us. He could have reached out to another guy. He didn't. He wanted 3 ladies on his podcast with him.
Oh, shoot.
But I think I just want to say thank you to everyone who has made it this far in listening to us. We hope that you will tune back in on all 4 of our podcasts. So Exploring with Jenna Lee Kim.
Soul Searching.
Color Shift.
The empowered
adoptee. Hold on, wait. Restart.
I'll try it again.
Okay,
I'll restart.
Try it again. All right, so wait, we got to do this in order. So we'll do Jenna, April, Claire, and then myself. All right, ready?
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go.
Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has stayed listening this long. We're really excited to have you with us on all 4 of our platforms. So Exploring with Jenna Lee Kim on Spotify.
Soul Searching with Deep South Korean on Spotify and YouTube.
The Empowered Adoptee Podcast on all the podcasting platforms, wherever you get your podcast from.
I'm sorry. I'm so unserious.
Way to mess it up, Nate.
We're doing so good.
I got this. Hold on. Wait. Color Shift, transracial adoptees on all your major platforms. Thank you.
Let's go.
Well,
Okay.
yes. Again, if you somehow made it this far, then you are true troopers.
You're one of our friends. Thank you.
Yes, you may or may not be in a group chat with us. That's probably the only reason why you're still in this conversation. So,
shout out to Only KADs.
How did that name come about, by the way?
I was just going to say, stay tuned for next episode where we explain the name of our podcast and all of our, well, not all, but some of our inside jokes.